you will to nightling classes. First, we'll start off the day with some wisdom at dawn. Here's Steve to tell you more about that.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Steve Chen. I'm from the southern region, and I'm excited to be here today to help facilitate this class, and I'm very appreciative of the opportunity to be able to be here, to join you today, to really think through and learn from and share the Dharma with you all today. So to get started, I'm sure all of you throughout the past few days will be reflecting on what Tzu means to you and on your connection with this organization. Tzu is a multifaceted organization. We are all here today for some reason. You and others might know the organization for its charitable efforts, for its ability to, for example, provide and deliver disaster relief aid to many countries around the world. You might also find Tzu as a place to volunteer, a place to go when you're seeking to give back to the community around you. And lastly, other people might find Tzu as a community, a place to find, deepen, and celebrate meaningful, profound friendships. Right? And it's important to note that these perspectives are not mutually exclusive, right? Rather, there are different sides of the same die. They are all weaved together by a common thread. And in our case, this thread is the principles that that define the organization, the core ideas that Tzu volunteers seek to embody no matter what they are, no matter where they are. These ideas, such as gratitude, respect, and love, are important parts of the mission and vision of this organization. So we're going to start today with an exploration of where these principles come from and how they relate to our Tzu identity. In addition, we're going to explore how Tzu volunteers are so integral to the achievement of Tzu's mission and vision. And so in order to do so, we're going to watch an excerpt of one of Dharma Master Chengyen's teachings. Every morning, Dharma Master Chengyen lectures on the Dharma. Then those are the Buddhist teachings. And she shares that the Dharma is what unites and drives Tzu volunteers around the world. The essence of the Dharma not only represent the foundational basis for Tzu, but also serve as an inspiration for spiritual practice and cultivation. These teachings teach us how to form good relationships with each other. So in this first class of the day, the video excerpt we're going to hear will capture how Master Chengyen hopes the Dharma will inspire volunteers to serve selflessly and to improve their daily spiritual practice. Let's listen.
全球4合1占卜18个来自海外的家人，非常欢迎你们。
这一回啊，27个国家，有9个国家在三重，在这里呢有18个国家。那有9个国家语言要经过翻译，多种语言都要在翻译菩萨爱心与智慧，把这个法很准确的 翻译过来，很感恩啊，翻译菩萨们呐，这样的语言的功德。
Mi trabajo en la fundación está en el grupo de visitas. Estoy a cargo de visitar a las personas que necesitan. Y siempre cuando vamos junto a estas personas, ellas me dicen, y terminamos, logramos el objetivo, me dicen muchas gracias, gracias. Y para mí la palabra gracias es poca cosa, me dicen otra vez. Y les digo, no, yo no quiero que me diga gracias. Yo no quiero tu agradecimiento. La forma en que tú me vas a dar las gracias es haciendo lo mismo que nosotros hicimos por vos, ayudando a otro hermano, pasándole la mano, sacándole del problema en el que está, así como nosotros hicimos contigo. Entonces yo siento que eso es una prolongación del amor, una expansión del amor, un remolino de amor.
听到了几位菩萨的分享，在话都是呢，精神都很准哦，可见都翻译得很好，所以要感恩呢，翻译菩萨把法呢来铺路，让大家通，没有路可走，就通不了啦。翻译就是把这样的方法传给大家，我们要如何来共同用爱来面对人生，也听到了，在分享自己过去也许呢有所不明白，产生了排斥感，可是呢，只要你真心的投进来，那种亲自感受是真是用时间身体力行过来的。是啊，慈济呢是一个宗门，慈济宗门，人间路啊。这个人间路呢，是从佛陀的思想，把它佛法呢，成为人生要可以做出来，不是呢，光是听经听法，法听来是要入我们的生命里，能面对的人间，可以与人无争，与世无争，与世间无争，让我们的心永远都是处在很平常如常的生活，那一种，这就是佛法在人间。但是呢，佛法要在人间，也要有它的脉动下来，净是法脉，那就是把佛法的精髓，把它集中起来，要很深的话，变成是我们生活中人与人之间的一个这个调和剂，能让人与人彼此相处的平安快乐。这就是佛法需要在人间 所以开始呢，佛法用精神把它精致化，这就是净施法脉。在精神从佛法的接触，佛法很多，要如何把它抽出来？现在人间所需要的，跟生活、跟人群要接触的，这就是佛法的精髓，把它融会贯通在精神面里，这叫做净施法脉。要情形到，这不只是铺路在人间呐，还要用菩萨的精神。宗教不分别，我们人人呢都是尊重任何宗教。慈济里面呐，什么宗教都有，但是呢，它的方向是一致。相信在座呢，不同的宗教，在慈济里面都是彼此尊重。所以呢，要努力，大家一个方向，不分宗教，我们要很殷勤、很精进，向了一个方向，踏实，步步踏实，向前呢去精进，那就是为人间。人间苦难偏多啊，需要人间的不同宗教、不同信仰，可是呢，要有共同的一个汇合，那叫做爱。人世间的有爱啦，可以把冬天的白雪啦，可以让它软化，在热天的炉火红炉，也可以呢用滑水呢让它清凉化。这是需要用法，在人与人之间是要缓和，用爱呢共同面对。慈济呢53年来，因为渺渺不空共，从很困难的一无所有，一直到现在，曾经有过大灾难，慈济呢去帮助过啦。现在已经99个国家了哈。那还有呢，慈济人呐，把这个种子呢就地，一颗种子可以生无量，这种一生无量，只要我们肯用心。一个人见人说慈济，做什么？把精神力量跟他们提，不是为了目前，为的是目心。你接触到了一个，让他知道人间疾苦，很期待他们见苦知福，同时呢，就是要去做造福，人人能造福人间，就是人人呢，就是有福人，这就是人世间的幸福，真正的幸福。
All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about two of the ideas that were mentioned in the video that I found that were very meaningful and important to me. And those two ideas are one, the Jingsi Dharma lineage, and then secondly, the Tzu school of Buddhism. So the Jingsi Dharma lineage represents Tzuji's interpretation of the Dharma and the core sets of principles that we derive from Buddhist teachings. These principles include ideas such as gratitude, respect, and love, as well as the 4-ingredient spiritual soup of contentment, gratitude, understanding, and acceptance. It's important to note that our interpretation of Buddhist teachings are what we describe as a Dharma lineage. This means that these principles should not only be cultivated individually by their application in our daily lives and our service, but also should be shared with others and passed on through friends, families, and our social communities. Just as all of us are here gathered today to learn about the principles of contentment, gratitude, understanding, and acceptance, we are all encouraged to share about those principles in our respective home communities. So in this sense, the Dharma lineage is about cultivating wisdom through reflection, introspection, and daily spiritual practice. Next, the Tzu school of Buddhism, or known as the Tzu path, is the application of those principles in the service to others. It's about cultivating compassion through the relief of suffering among those in need. When we go out and serve those in need, we are walking on the Tzu path. These two ideas, the Jingsi Dharma lineage and the Tzu school of Buddhism, form the foundation of Tzu. As Tzu volunteers, we strive to cultivate wisdom by learning these principles, as well as compassion by serving those in need. As we shared yesterday, bodhisattvas are those that seek to serve others while improving ourselves. In Tzu, we seek to wholeheartedly feel and relieve the suffering of those in need, and in that process, nurture our selflessness, our kindness, and our humility. Individuals from all different faiths, backgrounds, and religions can be bodhisattvas. Bodhisattvas are those with a kind heart who volunteer and serve, reflect on those experiences, and apply those learnings in our daily practice. So we're going to take a few moments now to reflect in your small groups on your own experiences walking the bodhisattva path. What are our service experiences and what have we learned from them? And how have we applied those experiences and those learnings in our daily lives? So in your small groups, please discuss the following questions and share, and then we'll have a large group report out right after. All right, take 3 minutes to wrap up your conversation and identify a person to share. All right, take 1 more minute to wrap up your conversations. Okay, great. I heard so many good conversations and good discussions around the room. I was wondering if anyone would like to share something that they heard or something that they shared during the discussion about either the question, either some of the volunteer experiences that they've had with Tsuji or what they've learned from that experience. No one wants to share? Group 8 wants to share. Let's give a big round of applause to Group 8.
Hello? Is this working? Oh. Hi, I'm Cynthia. I'm from the Philadelphia chapter. So we talked about how we actually integrated both of the questions together. So what I shared was that I'm kind of like a TC toddler, where I started Tsuji when I started Tsuji Chinese school when I was 5 years old. And then I was saying that when I joined Tsusao in 8th grade, it was like a pretty easy transition just because the Tsusao came to us and was like, oh, you guys should join. And when I first joined, I was kind of like, whatever about it, because I had an older brother and I just went whenever he went. But as I got more involved and I made the friendships that I made, and when I was a junior in high school, I started coming to these national conferences. And I know a lot of the older, the people who I met when I was a junior in high school, and they were the leaders of TCCA or English retreat, they probably don't recognize me. But it was just I've watched them transition from Tsuching to these gray shirts, and they've been huge role models to me. Even if it's from far away, I've watched them come back every single year, and I've watched them lead, and I've watched them grow from college students to masters to college students to young professionals, and that was really inspiring to me, seeing how they've grown through Tsuji and how they've grown in their professional lives. Oh yeah, and I came when I was in Orange County to Sao. I went from 8th grade as okay about Tsuji, and then the more I grew in the leadership that grew with me, from planning the nursing home visits to planning the monthly youth meetings and coming to Philadelphia to plan teaching events and to kind of just cultivate the schools that are surrounding the Philadelphia area. And I've learned a lot from Tsuji, and I definitely owe a lot of the growth that I've made in the past few years to Tsuji. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing. Does anyone else want to share? Any other sharings? Someone's gonna get picked from the left side. Oh, okay. Just kidding. Saved by group 12.
我参加慈济就是最深的印象就是我看到慈济人的那个面霜，就是我们对我来说，我感觉到很有印象，就感觉到心中很温暖。每当看到慈济人的笑，我就觉得哎呀好开心。那我从中学习呢，就是我也想，见到每一个人都对他们发出那个笑容，而且这个笑容还是真心的笑。那这个时候呢，对方会感到一种哎呀，很友善的那种感觉。那我自己呢也觉得非常的快乐，所以呢，我就觉得就是说，当我们主动的对别人发出友善的时候，那个时候其实我们是最幸福的。好，谢谢。
Thanks for sharing.
Do you want to translate or? Oh,
Yes, please.
okay. What sister said, it's about the Tzu Chi lotion. So smiling, and when you are in the activities, the recipient will feel warm, and meanwhile, it's reflect back to her happiness. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, can we get one more sharing actually from my left side? Yes, thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Andrew, and I'm from Taiwan. So I think because our team only share for a few things, then I want to wrap it up. And because I think both of our teammates are born with Tzu Chi and living in the Tzu Chi, so that time is kind of hard to translate your daily life to the others. So the way I'm thinking is because actually in your daily life you have a lot of obstacles, and maybe that will stop you to doing something that you want. And then what I learned from experience is that, okay, when I was in college, then I was the president of the Tzu group. Then in Tzu University is the communication school. So a lot of the people were discussing with the news or something that producing on TV. Then at that time, there was a very variety of the Tzu rumors that spread in Taiwan. So it's kind of a real obstacle to me to just sitting inside the classroom, because all of the teachers and professors were talking about the Tzu rumors and what we did and maybe something wrong. But of course you cannot fight with the teacher, because sometimes they will let you have a lower degree. So that time I was frustrated. Then I think that, oh my God, how can I be surviving this kind of a school right now, and even to promote the Tzu, because if I wear Tzu uniform, now I feel very kind of awkward, and maybe someone will see me or treat me differently. So at that time, I still thinking that, okay, this is my life obstacle, so I'm just going to follow the flow, or I have to fight for it. And at that time, actually, I kind of a step back, because I cannot hold myself to inside the floor, because the floor is too big for me. Then, but during the time and I processing and digest my kind of feeling, and what I learned from Tzu Chi, it's like you have to feel positive to your life. And actually, is it what your first heart when you join to Tzu Chi, and what's the most touching moment that you feel in Tzu Chi? I think for me, it's like I see my parents doing a lot of works, and they are too busy, way too busy to maybe to take care of me. But I think that what they're doing is because the master's compassion and to all the human beings, and also the animals. So I think that when I see Master Chen, and I will feel like it's like I think harmony and joy. And the touching moments for me is like when I helping others, and when I see someone who is suffering, and after I helping them, and I see their smiles, and that makes me feel joy and harmony. So I think that's why I keep moving forward in my daily life and Tzu Chi's path. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing. So as we've heard from the sharings in your small group as well as with our large group discussion, we have all learned something from volunteering Tzu Chi, right? Volunteering with Tzu Chi challenges us to learn how to be more kind, to be more compassionate, to be more mindful, not only with ourselves, but also with others as well as the environment. And so in doing so, we are all walking the Bodhisattva path of cultivating ourselves as well as serving others. So during the next 2 days, this retreat is going to focus on one specific set of principles that we call the 4-ingredient spiritual soup. These principles are contentment, gratitude, understanding, and acceptance. And during the next few days, you will have an opportunity to, in your small group as well as amongst all the attendees here today, explore a little bit about what we mean when we talk about these principles. Why these principles may be relevant in our work in Tzu Chi, as well as in our daily practice. And what are effective ways in which we can learn to practice and embody these principles all the time. And so with that, that concludes the end of this morning's Dharma study session. And I'm going to pass the microphone off to Holden. Thank you.
Welcome.
My name is Regan. Nice to meet you all.
So today we will be beginning the first of the 4 spiritual soup workshops, contentment.
Yep. So over the course of the past few days, past day rather, and this morning, I think you've probably heard us talk about a couple of times how the theme for this conference is going to be the 4-ingredient spiritual soup. And we hope to use this soup in order to enrich our lives and... Okay, that was a little slow. But okay, and I only see some hand signs here. So enrich our lives and... Okay, good. Okay, nice. And so, as a refresher, do you all remember what those 4 ingredients are? First one is a given, it's here, so you don't need to tell me that. But the other 3, can I have you all just call it out if you remember what the other 3 ingredients are? Gratitude. What else? Understanding, yes? Acceptance, exactly. So the 4 ingredients we're talking about are contentment, gratitude, understanding, and acceptance. Now, these words you've probably all seen in the past. You probably all have a pretty basic idea of what they mean, right? So very straightforward. Contentment is to be content. Gratitude is to be grateful. Understanding is to be understanding. And acceptance is to be accepting. And I think we have a basic concept of what these things mean. No rocket science here, but I think what you'll start to find as we go into each of these workshops in the next couple of days is that when we look at what each of these practices has to offer, we realize there's so much it can bring into our individual lives, and especially when we can practice them consistently. So what we'll want to start with today and with this workshop is in looking at the first of these ingredients being contentment. And some of the major questions that we really want to answer are, 1, what is contentment, right? We have this basic understanding. Let's go a little bit deeper into what that means. Why is the practice of contentment important in our daily lives? What can it bring to us? And finally, how can we begin to practice contentment where maybe in the past we haven't done so yet? So these are some of the key questions. And so before we get into all of that, I want to kind of get an idea of what everyone's understanding is so far. So when you think contentment, right, chances are you have that basic understanding I was talking about, but what does it mean to you? Maybe what are some other words that pop into your head when you think contentment? What are some associations that you make with the idea of being content? So if you guys can just all raise your hands if you have any ideas, anything goes, anything at all. When you think contentment, if there's another word that pops into your head, another idea, what are some of those things? So any initial volunteers? And if I don't get responses, I'm not stopping, so just so you know. What does it mean to be content to you guys? Any takers? Andrew? Cherish the things you have, exactly. Anybody else? Yes, Connie. Satisfy, or satisfied, right? Okay, to be satisfied, exactly. Any other thoughts? I must be blind. Oh yes, hi, it's cool. Accepting, yeah. So we're starting to bring in some other ingredients as well, right? Acceptance. Yeah, so cherishing the things you have, being satisfied with what you have, accepting what you have, right? And I think when we bring these things together, we start to think that maybe there's this association with desire, right? If I'm being content about something, that probably implies that there was maybe a desire that lived there, and my response to that desire is that I am content with what I have. And I think those thoughts begin at pretty much a very young age, right? Even as a kid, we learn that maybe I really want that candy. And if I don't get that candy, I'm probably going to be upset, right? Now, personally, as a kid, my mom promised me that, so I really liked McDonald's at the time. And so my mom promised me that once a month, we'll go get you McDonald's. And so probably, I don't care anymore, but back in the day, when I did care, if I wanted my monthly dosage and I didn't get my monthly McDonald's, my Happy Meal, I probably would have been upset. And of course, the things that we want over the years, they change, right? Maybe as I became a teenager, I would want a bike. Maybe as I became even older than that, I would want a Tesla, I don't know, or a big house, right? But so these things change over time, right? But so far what we've talked about are all materialistic things, objects, right, that we want. But our desires, the things that we want and we hope for, can certainly extend beyond just objects and materialistic things. So for example, it could be, if you're still in school, your education, right? Maybe that's something you really care about. If it's that you're in the workforce now, maybe it is your career that you really care about. Or maybe it's your relationships with other people. It could even be your involvement within Tsuji. Maybe you really want to be involved in a certain way with Tsuji or some other organization in some way. Maybe it's your hobby, whatever it is. There are lots of things in our lives that we care about and that we probably begin to have some sort of an idea of a desire or a hope in relation to those things that we care about. And so to kick off the conversation here, what I'd like to do is for everyone to have an opportunity to think for your own lives, what are some of those things that you really care about and that you really want? Which also implies that maybe there are things that you don't already have, right? So take a moment, think about that. And what we're going to do for this activity, there are a few sheets of paper on the table. So take the stack, take 4 sheets for each of you at the table. I'll give you a moment to do that. Let me know if you do not have enough paper for your group. Hopefully you do. So do that really quick.
If you don't have enough sheets, please just raise your hand and we'll come by and distribute them.
Yeah, make sure you also have a pen because we need to write things down. So is any table missing sheets of paper or pens, anything like that? Yes. Need a pen. Okay. Anybody have an extra pen that we can let him? 2 extra pens I can let him borrow? Anybody? Extra pens in the room. Do I have a pen in my pocket? I don't. Got it? Anybody else? Okay, so I assume we're all good. So again, take maybe 2 minutes, and for each of these cards, write on the top of the card something that you really care about, something that you really want. And again, that probably means that at this point in time in your life, you probably don't have that thing quite yet. Now, try to write it towards the top of the card and leave some space towards the bottom because we have a few subsequent follow-ups for this. Now, to give you an idea, right, it may be some of those things that I mentioned earlier as examples, but also, Alan, can you share some other examples with us?
So I will be kind of sort of doing the activity with you guys to make sure that we're kind of all on the same page. So prior to the class, I've come up with 4 things already. I want to spend more time with family. I want to have a big house. I want to get my dream job. And finally, I want to volunteer. And as you can see, I kind of left that space, wrote it to the top, one on each card.
So take 2 minutes and please write down these 4 things that you really care about and that you really want.
Yeah, orange. 要换红色吗？
Sorry,
So if your group is done, group leader, if you could just raise your hand to let us know, that would be awesome. Thank you.
So how many people still need more time? Okay, cool. We'll give another minute or so. Okay, so let's bring things back. Now you have these 4 cards in front of you, right? What I'm gonna ask you to all do is flip the cards over. So now you can't see anything, right? But you probably still remember the order, so that's not gonna work. So go on and shuffle them around a little bit. Shuffle them however you want. The main objective is that you don't know what's under those cards, so don't play any sly games. Shuffle it really, really well. And then when they're all done and shuffled, please take 2 of these cards at random, put them to your left side. Take the other of these 2 cards and put them to your right side. All good? Okay, so now what we're gonna do, you have 2 cards on your left, 2 cards on your right. We're going to rewrite what we have on these cards depending on if that card is on your left or your right. If it's on your left, what I want you to do is to treat that thing that you want as if you have already attained it. You've either gotten it or you are able to get it. And for the cards on the right, rewrite it as if you cannot get it or will not get it. And so for example,
Okay, so back to me running the activity. On my left, I want to have a big house and I want to have a meaningful and fulfilling job. Those 2 things become, I get a big house and I have gotten my dream job. On my right, I want to spend more time with family and I want to volunteer, but they are now rewritten as, I do not get to spend more time with my family and I don't volunteer.
so take just a minute to rewrite your cards in that way.
Does anyone need a bit more time? Okay. All right, so we will go ahead and move on. So as we did this activity, as we crossed these things out, and as we wrote down things that we do have or we don't have, I'm sure some of us will have some thoughts of what if this was true? What if this actually did happen? And I want to just go into this and kind of let us all have a little group discussion and ask this question. Looking at these outcomes in front of you, how do you feel? What do you think you would be experiencing if these were real? Or just how do you feel about the activity? Just maybe 1 or 2 minutes to discuss with your group. I need to remember. Yes, words, transition, relate. This is life. This is how we happy, we sad, we volume. Some groups look like they're coming to a close. Well, no, wait. It's the question you think you respond to. Why do you think? Yeah. Do we want a sharing? I think we might not have time.
What's the follow-up after that?
It is going into, hey, this is analogous to life. We all experience, we all have desired outcomes for whatever may come at us in life, situations, materials, etc., etc. And we may be happy, we may be sad.
Okay, then just no sharing. Yeah, I think.
You want a mic back?
Yeah, happy to do it. But let's to the next one.
Okay, let's go ahead and draw our conversations to a close, and I'd like to move on to the next question.
Which is the follow-up.
And this is the follow-up. We're following up with, why do you think we respond in this way? So maybe we've talked about how, oh, we're happy about the things we have obtained. Maybe we're sad about the things that we can't have. Why do you think we as humans experience these negative and positive emotions? Let's give about 2 to 3 minutes to discuss this part. Oh, we said 15 to 20. Okay, so he knows that we might be a bit emotional. Actually, alright, so if I remember correctly, I want
3 to the first, 8 to the
we
second.
end at 25, so 1's 30. Okay, so 25. So we want to get started on this thing around 9:10. Or 9:10. Yeah, around 9:10.
I guess around 8:35 is when we began, right? And so 11 minutes until we got to the discussion.
Yeah, I just remember like the last block, right? The last big block is 20 minutes free talk, 3 minutes, 20 minutes discussion, and then 5 minutes close.
Oh,
So
35.
based off of that,
So it
he
would have been at
should
9.
be- yeah.
Oh, really?
No. So
we have it
we
at
end at
9:45.
9:45.
Yep.
So then at
So 9 is when he starts.
9:25, yeah, 9:25 is when we want the discussion to when he ends, essentially.
When he what?
When he ends, so like 9:05. Yeah, 9:05 is around when we want him to start.
Actually, we have plenty of. Oh no, we don't have time. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
we have other
Okay,
things to
let's
do.
get started.
So let's finish up our thoughts. Hello, hello. Could I have your attention again, please? All right, so I can see that we have had some really involved and enthusiastic discussions. And is there any group that would perhaps like to share on what they have been discussing at their group?
Don't be shy.
Brian.
Did I see
Wait.
some
I see
clapping
Brian.
for your group?
Brian.
Or
Brian.
Brian? Yeah? Okay, cool.
Okay. Okay. All right. I'll talk about the things that I didn't get and I got first. So I got my family's homes and well-beings. I got lasting relationships with my friends. I didn't get meaningful work, and I didn't get a dog. So we talked about attachment and attachment to the things that we want. So the things that you have, once you have them, they feel less impactful in your life than when you were like desiring after them. Because once you get the thing that you want, well, it doesn't really improve your life anymore because you already have it. So you look for something else that will improve your life. And so even though I have meaningful relationships with my friends, and even though I have my family's homes and well-beings, well, I don't have a dog. So I'm not going to think about the things that I have anymore. I'm going to think about the things that are going to improve my life. So I'm going to think about that dog. But like that in a way is just a cause of like attachment to something that you constantly want, right? I have like great things, but because I want things that will continually improve my life, you just think about the next thing. And then once you get that thing, you think about the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And so really there is just a cycle of uncontentment.
Awesome. Thank you, Brian, for the sharing. So he talked about attachment. He talked about desire. And that's wonderful because it actually brings us really nicely to our next point. This activity is very much, I think, analogous to life, right? All of us have desires. All of us have hopes for certain outcomes, whether it be in our relationships, whether it be in material pursuits, or any situations that arise. Whether we realize it or not, whenever something comes up, we kind of have this hope or attachment maybe to an outcome that we are looking forward to. And when we're able to attain these things, there's this happiness that comes up. But sometimes we aren't able to achieve or attain these things. And when this happens, as Brian said, discontentment arises. And we begin to have these negative emotions. We begin to maybe become jealous of others who have things that we don't. Maybe we think, oh, I wish I had this, or I should have gotten that, or I should be here in my life, or various things regarding situations, materials, and relationships. Now, I'd like to show all of you guys some very happy and content individuals in this video.
去的人再回来的，可以为这一片土地呢，还有未来，真的有很长很久可以规划，为这一块土地呢，如何来培育？那连这个非洲的苦难呢，我们要如何来帮助他们？总而言之呢，这一波去的
Could we cut the video?
再回来的。
Awesome, thank you. All right. So when I said happy and content individuals, maybe did you think of a successful businessman? Maybe you thought of a decorated athlete. But no, I wanted to focus on these Mozambique volunteers. I wanted to focus on their genuine, their bright smiles, their joyous singing, because these volunteers, they don't have much. They don't have much materialistically. In fact, many of them have to walk 2 hours for water as a daily chore. Many of them have faced abuse and trauma in their lives. And in fact, these volunteers, when they do their distributions, they are at centers where there are no walls, there are no roofs, there are no tables or even chairs. They don't have many of the things that we come to take for granted and expect in life. So my question is, if we are faced with similar situations where we have very little, are we also able to smile genuinely? Are we also able to sing joyously? I know for me personally, as someone who grew up in America, in a first world country, I have come to perhaps expect and take these things for granted. And watching these Mozambique volunteers, I think it's really inspiring, but at the same time, perhaps a bit foreign to me. Like, how are they able to be so happy? How are they able to sing so joyously? And my question is, how are they able to do this, right? Why and what makes us different?
Exactly. So, in other words, right, why is it that we, as individuals who have so much more, we should be the ones who should be able to be this way, and maybe we are, and so it probably is unimaginable for us that if you and I, we were faced with these kinds of circumstances, that we would be able to express the same sort of joy and smiles and sing in the same way that they are, right? And so we think that the reason for this is because these volunteers and these folks in Mozambique, they probably understand what it means to be content. They probably understand what achieving contentment means. So looking at kind of a Tzu Chi definition of contentment, and maybe you guys saw this last night on Master Dutton's slide as well, contentment is to be at peace with whatever one encounters and to carry no thoughts of greed. So I won't talk too much about the element of greed. I think we all have a pretty clear idea of that. I also won't go too much into the meme here. But I want to focus on this first half right here, to be at peace with whatever one encounters. For these folks in Mozambique, what have they encountered? First of all, probably just as a starting point, their standard of life, their quality of life is probably not particularly high. Alan talked about needing to walk something like 2 hours a day just to get water, whereas we use water from our sink as we wish and probably very wastefully all the time, right? So given these situations, already a very bad starting point. Then considering the recent disasters that struck their areas, wiped out probably a lot of what these folks had, maybe their livelihoods, their homes, when they already had so little. How were they still able to be as they were in that video, singing, cheering with each other, and showing that they were still happy and joyful? And so what I want to distinguish here is that they're able to do this, which shows that they're content, but that doesn't mean that they care less about those things that maybe they care about and want, right? They probably want to have a life and a home free of disaster. They probably want to have a better standard of living. And they still want these things. It's not because they don't want these things that suddenly they're able to smile, right? It's not that I don't care anymore. They still do, but even in the absence of those things that they want, even when they don't get those things that they want, they're still able to be happy about it. And so Alan and I, when we were preparing this session, we worked with Stephanie Sugu in the back, and the way she described this was very powerful to me, which is that, you know, there are all these things that we desire, that we want in life, that we hope for. And most of the time, you know, when we get that thing that we want, we're happy. And when we don't, we're not, right? But what contentment means is that when we get these things, yeah, we're probably happy. And when we don't, we're still peaceful. So that, to me, is what contentment means.
So I'd like to invite Brother Freeman, the Executive Director of the Northeast region and also a longtime practitioner and spiritual cultivator, to share on his journey in finding contentment and overcoming discontentment.
敬爱的上人，金色师父。Hi, good morning, everyone. After the two young men described the contentment, I also sit there to think about, and I look at everyone. Looks like everyone is happy, so which means that you already content, right? So I don't need to share too much to everyone. I just thinking, what is contentment means. When we not feel happy, that means something you're not satisfied, right? So in this way, you might looking for how to be the contentment. I become the volunteer for some years, and I always thinking my learning from master is always take the meaning. Until year 2010, I have a first trip to Haiti for disaster relief. And I went there, I see a lot of suffering, and a lot of house they are falling down. And we do the distribution. That mission is for the school supply to the students, which is kids for the supply. We collect all the supply, school supply from United States, and we go there. We went there to distribute to them. And I remember one day, we have a whole troop to the one school. That school, actually the classroom already fall down, still under the construction. And all the kids, they wear very neat uniform. They are all happy. And the line up, you can imagine. Then we give the stationery to them, each one by one, right? So everyone got the one bag of the stationery. So after that, they go back to the classroom, and every hour, the volunteer, we all went into the classroom, try to interact with the kids. So the same thing, I walk into the one of the classroom with another sister, and we say hello to the kids there, and everyone is happy, right? And they got the stationery, the pencil, erase. And I just look at that, and I see the one little girl, looks like he's not so happy. He's just thinking. So I walk to her, say, "Oh, hi, girl, do you like your pencils?" And she looked at me. He said, "Yes." A little bit shy, and he said, "Yes." And I say, "Looks like you are not happy." She replies to me. He said, "I'm happy, but I just thinking because this red pencil is my good friend. He like it, but she's sick, so she's not coming today. I try to thinking, should I need to give this to her instead of I keep it?" At that moment, until now, I still remember that thing. I think this little girl, even though he only had these little things, but he's still thinking others. And what am I? The whole life, I'm so fortunate, I have everything, but I'm still eager to looking for something. At that moment, I realized what is contentment is. And I know the contentment you need to practice, not just only one time. So that's why Master always teach us we need to go out to help people to see if others are suffering, and you can look at yourself, how fortunate you are, and how rich you are. So after that time, I joined many times disaster relief, and also we visit some people they need, especially for the few years ago, we have a Hurricane Sandy hit the New Jersey, New York, Long Island area, and we do a lot of distribution. And I really see what is contentment is. So after that, I practice more often. When I see something, I try to get it, then I will start to think about, is that what I need, or is that what I want? So I think that's why Ellen wants me to share a little bit about my experience. And I believe the love. Hello? Yeah. Okay. I believe the thing in the world, only love you can, even you give, the more you give, the more you get, is the love. So that can let you content yourself. So that's I think that's one thing I want to share. And another one is for the practicing, because sometimes you learn from the video, you know contentment, but always when you have something, you try to get more, just like a buffet, right? So when we go to the buffet store, wow, everything I want. And when I first time go to the buffet restaurant, I always full of the plate, right? And end up I cannot finish it. So after that, master teacher us, don't go to the buffet store. Yeah, and I start to learn. Actually, if I go somewhere, you can get something. You always think about if that you already enough. And I hope everyone can learn this. This is a Buddhist teaching for us to learn step by step. That is the Bodhisattva path to practice ourselves, especially when we already commit to the volunteer journey here. Sometimes you will not feel satisfied. Because what? Because you work so hard to plan the one event, and you see someone, they not really work like your way, so you feel so upset, right? But if you look back yourself, you see what the purpose you plan this activity. The purpose you plan this activity is not try to look at something you're not satisfied, is not look at something not that you happy, right? You try to fulfill something to let everybody satisfied. So if you think that this way, then you will feel contentment a little bit. So step by step, then you learn, you practice, so you will get in there. So that always can be practiced. So today I just want to share this up to here, and I hope everyone learn contentment day by day, and we all work together to help others. Thank you.
Hello? Okay, awesome. All right. So thank you, Freeman Shibo, for the wonderful sharing. I think one powerful thing to me that Freeman Shibo shared about is this constant practice of contentment, right? We talk about the four spiritual soup, and we say at the beginning of the opening, during the opening ceremony, we had this skit, right? That they drank this soup, and suddenly they come to these realizations that their behaviors aren't maybe the nicest, or they're just not being the best that they can be, right? And it's almost portrayed as we drink this soup and then everything's okay. But in the reality of things, it's about this practice, right? This constant drinking of the soup. It's about this practice, and this practice itself is difficult. It's something that we have to continue, and also perhaps get support from others to be able to continue this path of cultivation and practice.
And in Freeman Sibel's sharing, I think the story where there was a little girl who had gotten these school supplies, right? Probably the only school supplies she has. And she's thinking, how can I begin to give this, or should I maybe give this to my friend who's not here today and would not get the supplies otherwise, even when this is the only thing she has? That maybe was the soup for Freeman Sibel, right? And so in that moment, that event, maybe for his mind, became the recipe to begin drinking, or to begin making this contentment soup, and thereby to begin drinking it. So maybe there are events in your life that allow for that. Maybe through this class today and Freeman Sibel's sharing and a few of the things we discuss, you'll begin to learn how to make that as well. But to Alan's point, what's important is you'll make it that first time and it feels great, right? But then maybe over time, how do we continue that practice, keep it consistent so that we're constantly drinking it? Otherwise, you do it once and it's done, it doesn't really get anywhere from there. So very, very appreciate your sharing Freeman Sibyl. Thank you very much. And so now that Freeman Sibyl has shared his story with us, his personal journey, I think it would be worthwhile for each of us to explore our own personal journeys as well. What are maybe some of those things that have brought us discontentment, and how have we dealt with it in the past? Moving forward, are there ways that maybe we can start thinking of how to deal with it in a different manner? Maybe starting to drink this contentment soup, right? So, starting off with the first question, we'll give you maybe 3 or 4 minutes to discuss this, but what is something that has brought you discontentment? And how have you tried to overcome it, if you have, right? How have you faced this discontentment in the past? How have you tried to overcome it? So I'll give you a few minutes to start discussing. All right, so let's begin wrapping up for this question right here. Take just a few moments, finish your final thoughts, and we'll move on to the next. Okay, so for this question right here, right, what we started to do was reflect upon our own journeys thus far. We started to get some insights from thinking through the experiences we've had in our own lives and from hearing the experiences of others. So now the next questions, what we want to do is start to bring together our collective experiences, right? You started hearing each other's experiences, so now you have this diverse set of experiences to work with. From what you've all shared, have you seen any patterns in how we deal with discontentment? How we try to overcome discontentment? And if so, what are those patterns? So we'll give you another couple of minutes to discuss there. So I'm hearing a lot of very good conversation. I do want to kind of set a little bit more context for the question. So the patterns that we're looking for, right? What I'm trying to say is, do you think that as we talk about each of our own individual ways of overcoming discontentment, do we see a pattern across, let's say, the group, right? Do we all seem to face it a certain way or try to overcome it a certain way? So I'll give you a few more minutes to continue discussing on that route, but just want to make sure I steer the direction correctly. Okay, so let's share some of our final thoughts, and I'd actually like to get a few sharings from across the groups too. So think a little bit about if there's anything you want to share. We can take a couple of sharings. No, I think the doors are locked. So it can be anything from maybe what the context of what you're trying to overcome is, and then across the group if you've had any patterns that you've seen, anything related to the discussion that we were talking about. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, if you would like. Okay, so I think I feel some enthusiasm from you guys to start sharing. So I'll take any volunteers. Yeah? Okay, I see a volunteer back there. Fantastic.
Hello. Oh, sorry. Hi. My name is Anna. I'm from Miami, Florida. I have this wonderful group of ladies who have, we shared some experience of what we're discontented about. So I'll share some of theirs. Okay. Hi. So let me begin again. So in our table, we shared what we were discontented about. Some people talk about grades. You know, they're young, they're pursuing the hundreds, and sometimes they don't get the hundreds, they get the 90s, even 80s, but they're not content. Some people are successful in putting a movie together, like doing a lot of, putting hours together and creating something beautiful, but because they didn't get recognized, they weren't content. So we realized that contentment is a feeling that we feel, and once you understand this feeling is coming from the source, you see that the pattern is really in your mind or in your heart. So once you identify this feeling, if you can put your knowledge together and try to flip it to something more positive. For example, the girl who did not get the 90 or 80, she realized that she learned so much more in the class that she didn't get the best score, because she was able to think through it and realize it was one of her favorite classes. It was a hard class, but she struggled and she learned so much more. The girl that put the movie together, she realized she didn't do it for the people picking number one. She did it for herself. So when she realized that, she felt fulfilled, and then she felt contentment. So the pattern we see is really in your mind and in your heart. How can you change that to something that you can be content? Because you can never change the outcome, but you can change how you think about it.
Anyone want to try to top that? I'm kidding. So I thought that was very, very powerful. That's exactly it. When we feel discontentment, it's in response to some situation, right? Some situation that's already happened, and to your point, we cannot change. And so what we then recognize is that discontentment is entirely in our own minds, and so long as we have the ability to recognize its source, then we can change that, not the actual reality of what happened, but the reality of what we feel and what we therefore perceive as reality. So that was very, very powerful for sure. Thank you very much. Any other folks who want to share? Okay, yeah? Okay, perfect. One more.
Thank you. Be honestly, I am the poor person. I make really little money every week from the library part-time, but I adopt the children in the poor country. Each month costs me $35, and I donate $10 for the New York State Park. This is a little bit hard for me, but every time I say, okay, I still very fortunate. I have the house, I have the family here, I have food. Like, I still can take the money out every month, so I will continue to do that. And I hope that thing will make change there too. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you for sharing. So I think the idea here is very similar to what we saw earlier, where in a scenario where we may not have very much on our own, we still think so much about others. And we feel that, it's not just more for me, but what can I do for others? And so that is a mentality that takes contentment to be able to achieve for sure. So thank you for sharing. Now, we have one last question, but I think we may have already started touching on it based on the sharings here. We'll give you a little bit more time, even if it's just to extend the conversation that you've already had. But what we want to try to allow everyone to start thinking about is just going forward, right? As we continue to face situations in our life where we'll start to feel discontentment, maybe it's a grade that we want, a dog that we want, whatever it may be, right? And if we don't get it at that moment, if we feel discontent, what could be a good general approach based on what we've learned today and from each other, such that we can begin to overcome this discontentment and or achieving contentment? So give you a few more minutes to discuss that, and we'll see if there are any other sharings from there. maybe just another minute or so, and then we'll take a sharing. All right, let's start to bring things in. And does anybody feel that they have an effective approach to overcoming discontentment that they would like to share? Hi. I see some interest here. Alice, would you like to share? Yeah? Only if you would like. Yeah. Yeah? Yeah? Okay. Cool. So let's give Alice our attention up here.
Hi, I'm Alice. So usually when we're discontent, we are expecting something, we want something, or we feel like there's something that we deserve or don't deserve that we didn't get. And usually our first reaction is that we're upset, we're mad, we're discontent, right? And so a good approach to this, a lot of people said to just be positive, try to look at it from a different perspective, but how do we do that? The way that we can try to change our mindset is to direct the energy, the negative energy that we have for what we didn't get towards growth. How can we improve? What can we do from this point out? And what can we do to get what we perhaps want? How do we move on from this? How do we take the next step? And that's how we change our mindset.
Thank you, Alice. So that's very, very powerful as well, I think. So we took upon the idea earlier where we're saying, let's first recognize that it's all in our mind, right? Let's find the source of discontentment. It's pretty much our minds playing games with us, right? If we know that we have the ability to transform it, that means that we're kind of being influenced by how our mind has learned to think, but is not the way that it has to think. And so how do we start to transform that? Maybe by redirecting the negative energy into a more growth mindset, right? Instead of thinking, oh, this really sucks, maybe it's how can I instead improve myself to maybe move myself towards that outcome that I more desire. And so very, very powerful. Everything that you've discussed today, these begin to be your own individual recipes for creating the spiritual soup. First for this ingredient of contentment here, eventually for the other 3 ingredients of the soup as well, and you'll have all of this soup to yourself, right? So whether it is a situation like the grades that we talked about earlier, I may have eavesdropped on that conversation and heard something about being 1 point off, which then changed the grade point by like 0.5%, which then maybe changed the letter grade, I don't know, something like that, right? Whether it's something like that, or whether it's that maybe you'll never get a dog in your life, I don't know, something dramatic, right? So any of these scenarios, whatever it may be, we can still drink this soup, right? And then be very okay with all of it, no matter what comes at you. That's the beauty and the power of this soup. Because this soup, for spiritual soup, it's actually, in Chinese, it's a play on an actual type of soup. And if you guys know, for Eastern medicine, right, it's not meant to just cure some symptom that arises. It's meant to boost you at the core, really, right? Fix the issue at the root and maybe boost your immunity, for example, right? So when you start to drink this soup, it's not just fixing 1 or 2 problems. You are transforming the way you think. You are boosting your entire immune system, your entire immunity, such that you can face anything that comes your way. That's the power of any of these things, these discussions that we're having, and the power of each of these ingredients, the power of the 4 spiritual soup. And so with that, I'll allow Alan to close out our session for us.
Testing? Okay, awesome. All right. Great. Clicker. Okay. So we're coming to the close of the class, unfortunately. Heard some amazing discussions. I was blown away by many of the things that we have been talking about. But as a recap, right, we started this class saying we'll be tackling these questions. what is contentment? Why is it important? How can we achieve it? So, as review, what is contentment? Contentment, we brought up the Jingsi aphorism, to be at peace with whatever one encounters and carry no thoughts of greed. And we focus on that first part, right? We talked about desire, we talked about expectations, we talked about outcomes, and how when we don't meet our desired outcomes or what we hope to have isn't achieved, we become discontent. And talking about discontent, this flows into how do we achieve contentment? And I think one big thing that we all sort of did in our conversations is we began with this starting point of we are discontent. How do we overcome it, right? So our sources of discontent come from, I've heard things such as expectations, unmet desires. And we came together during our discussions, talked about our own journeys, then we came together as a group to try to come up with a general solution. And hopefully all of us have taken something away. Maybe all of us have something unique, but we've all taken something away from this class that can help us make the soup, as Regan said. And I'd also like to point out one important thing that Freeman brought up, which is this practice of contentment is a constant. It's not about just, oh, I have this one discontentment, let's try to overcome this. It's about this constant practice in our lives to become, over time, gradually more and more content with everything that we encounter. And this comes into the last part, why is it important? So on the surface level, clearly being more content is to be more happy. But if we think a bit more deeply, what is this happiness? What is this contentment? It's about that being more content with everything that comes at you. If we truly just take a moment to think about things, when we go through life, when we meet people, when we go through any sort of situation, tiny things can create little hiccups in our mind. We go, ugh, why is there litter on the ground? Why did that person say that to me? Just tiny little things that perhaps build up these negative things in our head, and we get back to our homes at the end of the day, and we're just like, so tiring. I've had such a long day. But if we're able to have this contentment, right, we go through life, we go through our day peaceful, at ease, and we get to the end of our day, and we're still energized. We feel wonderful, right? And another aspect is to be content is to have more. We talked about the Mozambique volunteers. Freeman Shibo talked about the little girl with the stationaries. They have very little, but they still are very happy because it's not about the material possessions, it's about that mindset of looking at what you have and realizing you do have an abundance. And finally, I want to bring up this one photo. Just one day prior to conference, I saw it just scrolling through Facebook. I can't verify the truth behind the story, but I think the story has a very important lesson to tell. And this lesson is that, the story is, there's this child, right? This child, he's hungry, he's starving. You could see that this is a child that is living in a very harsh condition. And when given 2 lollipops, he still has this heart. He still has this desire to extend one of them to the cameraman, offer it to the cameraman. And I think this is just incredible, right? Even a child can do something so heartwarming and touching. And this kind of, just seeing this in my feed, had this moment of like, oh, aha, or like this click when thinking about contentment, and that is, we have more, right, when we are content. We feel we have more. There's this abundance that we have. But as CC volunteers, we're selflessly trying to give to others. We're volunteering, we're giving our time, we're giving our money. And, and this is, to have more also means to have more to give. And as volunteers, this is profoundly powerful, I think. It really allows us to look at what we have and what we do with our lives and how we could be living more meaningful lives. Thank you.
everyone. My name's Nicole, if you don't know me yet. Oh, wait, hold on. Okay, so we're going to delve into our second of our spiritual soups, gratitude. But first off, I'd like to make a distinction between contentment and gratitude. So while contentment is letting go the attachment of expectations, gratitude is the appreciation of those we meet, our surroundings, and all life situations. So what is gratitude? The dictionary tells us that it's a noun, and it's the quality of being thankful, readiness to show appreciation for, and to return kindness. So regularly, you would think of a noun as a person, a place, or a thing. But in the case of gratitude, it is not only showing appreciation, it is also returning it and giving it back. So why would we want to practice thankfulness? So according to an article in Forbes, there are many benefits from practicing gratefulness or gratitude. So it improves your health not only physically but also psychologically. It enhances empathy, reduces aggression, improves self-esteem, and helps you sleep better. So first, we're going to take out our heart maps that we did from yesterday. And if you are a new attendee and don't have a notebook, please take out your notebook if you are a new attendee. And if you don't have one, please raise your hand so we can give you paper. Where's Ben and Nathan? Okay, paper. All right. It should be in the... keep your hands raised for the paper. The paper. Thank you, Alex, for doing that for us. So right now, if you are new, yesterday during our icebreakers, we had written down what brings us joy in the centermost circle, and then in the middle, we put down our inspiration and aspirations. And now what I would like you to do is to draw 5 lines shown on the screen, the yellow lines, so it'll separate the outermost heart. So it'll look like that. So you're creating 5 empty spaces in your outermost heart. And then within those spaces, I would like you to write down what you're grateful for. So I have some guiding questions. What aspects in our lives bring us a sense of gratitude? What about experiences? What about people that you're grateful for? What about our surroundings and the environment? What are you grateful for? Please take a moment to write those down. Write or draw those down if you'd like. And you can take a couple minutes also to share within your groups what you wrote down. And if you have any questions, let me know. Feel free. I can answer those for you. So again, it looks like this. And these are the questions. Yes. Yeah, in each empty space, you write down, like, you can answer these questions or something that you're grateful for. You can write down in those empty spaces that you created in the outermost heart. So yeah, like 1 in each thing. And then afterwards, after you discuss within your groups, I'm going to ask a couple people, maybe 2, to volunteer, so just so you know in advance. And don't forget to share within your groups after you've written your 5 things that you're grateful for down. Don't forget to discuss.
No, that's what I'm saying. The paper.
30 seconds left. What? Can I do a 30-second warning? Should I do a 30-second warning? 30 seconds. 30-second warning. Unmute. 30-second warning. Okay, sorry to cut off our discussions. Are there any volunteers who would like to share what they said? Ooh, yes. Sorry.
Hi everyone, I'm Stephanie. I'm from Pittsburgh, and my group, we talked about some of the positive things we were grateful for, but we also wanted to talk about maybe something more negative that you're also grateful for. So I think we talked about the ability to overcome adversity and what that teaches you. And so 2 years ago, I got a really bad concussion. And so I didn't have the ability to do anything, really. Like even talking over dinner would like give me a headache. And so I had a lot of goals that I wanted to reach. I was getting ready to go to graduate school, and I realized like the only thing I had the ability to do to get better, to reach my goal, was to rest. And it was a different perspective, because usually when you think about getting something, it's about working hard and, you know, really putting your mind to it, but I didn't have that ability. The only thing I could do to get better was to rest. So it changed my perspective on the process and different things to be grateful for.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, for sharing. That's so inspiring. That was a great story that you shared with us all. I feel very touched. Is there anybody else who would like to share? Just one more person. Okay. That's actually
Hi, everyone. I'm Jasmine. I'm from New York. Our group, they are very grateful whatever they have, and to me, I'm very grateful that I be a human, because I be a human and I can learn the Buddha's Dharma. Okay, and I also am grateful to be a Tzu Chi volunteer, because because be a Tzu Chi volunteer, then I can meet all of you and learn all from you. And also I'm grateful I be a mother and wife, because the family make me grow up, and with all the children and make me more have energy. So that's I'm grateful. And I also grateful to be a Tzu Chi Chinese teacher. With all the kids, you know, you will have a lot of joy, and also you learn from them. And then I'm a teacher, but actually they teach me. So that's I'm grateful. So, and it's really a lot of things to grateful in my life. I always grateful whatever I have it. When I see something, then I say I'm so lucky. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jazz and Suku, for your wonderful sharing. Okay, so thank you again for our volunteers. So you might be asking, why do we do this heart map? So yesterday we started off with the question, what brings us joy? Then we talked about our inspirations and our aspirations, and today we wrote down what we're grateful for. So really, our gratitude stems from our inspiration, which leads to our inner joy. So there's actually an interconnectedness between gratitude and joy. And whether that be rest or interpersonal relationships such as friends or family or being a mom or being a Tzu Chi volunteer, it's all part of this process of gratitude. And I would like to delve in further into the concept of this interpersonal relationships. And to do so, I'd like to introduce Diana to talk to us about the New Jersey Tzu Chi Food Pantry.
More introducing instead of talking. So our New Jersey Food Pantry here started in 2010, I believe. And every Friday, the food pantry is open. And every other Saturday, it's open to serve the community that need it. So we have a core group of volunteers that are always here every Friday running the food pantry, from intake where they greet the recipients that come in to make them feel at home and get them settled in, to helping them, we call it cherry picking at the computer, where they pick out what they need. And then we have volunteers in the storage room packaging these so that the recipients are just kind of relaxing and waiting and talking to our Tzu Chi family while we're preparing their food items. And then in the kitchen background, it's so busy back there. I've been back there before, and a lot of our brothers and sisters are back there, you know, going through all the fresh produce to make sure that the best ones are being picked out and given to the recipients. And then after that, they load the carts and they help walk out all the food items. So, and today it is my honor and actually my pleasure to introduce one of our food pantry volunteers that what so touched me when I met him was the fact that he was going through an illness and he had to go to therapy. And his family members and our volunteers said, oh, you know, you should really stay home and rest, you know, and take this time off. But he was adamant about coming every Friday to help and volunteer no matter what. And it's actually a whole family of volunteers. It's Brother Stephen, Sister Kum Yu, and their daughter, Sister Catherine. And so, yeah, the whole family is always here every Friday volunteering. And actually, Sister Kum Yu is our culinary group for this retreat. So she's busy down there with Brother Stephen preparing our yummy meals. But then they're also here volunteering weekly for the food pantry. So I would like to invite our family to come up and share. So if you guys can give them a warm welcome. Come on up, come on up. They're very humble, so give them some encouragement while they share their story.
Hi, good morning everyone, brother and sister. My name is Stephen Now.
I'm Catherine. Tina Lau.
早上好。
Okay, so tell them why you like to come to Tzu Chi Food Pantry so much.
一個就是很 cannot tell, but I feel I need to come.
So in relation to the the three contents that we were talking about, I asked him, so are you happy to come here because of the experiences or people surroundings? The first thing that he came to answer my question was that people and then surroundings. And I said, well, Dad, what about your experiences? Without your own experiences, how are you going to relate to people? So he often forgot about himself, but he think about people that would make him forget about the pain or the worry, the fear. So he didn't really know what experiences are until I told him, like, what about you? You come here without people, then you don't have that opportunity to experience what you can have, right? And going back to Master Ching Yen, to give is to receive. And every time when I receive a request, I'm happy that I have him. Without the uniform, I love this contentment, right, coming from him. But with the uniform, we can actually do a lot of things together. Can you tell them about your? Well, tell them about your journey, like the difficulty when you have to go to therapy in the morning and then come. He needed to make a lot of stops because he had to drink a lot of fluid to go through the treatment. So we worry about him. Like I was to a point that I didn't talk to him for a while during that 2 months.
我喺2015年咧，我退休。
In 2005, he was retired.
因為我師姐嘅關係，我跟佢做慈濟啦，咁我跟住佢嚟。
Through mom, like he followed her to food pantry. That's how I got into the kitchen and chopping and cooking.
So 又覺得呢唔知點解好吸引，咁我做咗一次都覺得好有興趣。
So at one time, only one time he got in, he said, "Well, his heart opens. He just feels a lot of joy, but without reasons. So he started to come more often."
所以好期望每個禮拜五嘅嚟臨。
So he's so looking forward to coming here, even though there's a lot of language barriers. I help in the front, and people often, use sign languages to communicate. But I think, I could appreciate how he actually have a unified operation in the front, so then the recipients are actually communicating with each other. They teach each other, and they bring their friends to come.
我2015年開始嗰時咧，就好唔好彩，都有一次生病要去急症室，就做咗一個心臟嘅 stent。
So in 2005, he had unfortunately had a heart attack, and he had to go through that procedure at first.
咁咧之後咧，我就繼續咧做嚟慈濟，就唔知點解好吸引我嚟咗之後咧，我嗰段時間喺慈濟嗰段時間，我 feel 到即係感覺到就好開心，乜嘢事煩惱都冇咗嘅。
So because of his experience going through that time, the illness, he really was able to let go of himself. So he continued.
So 之後咧，我就師姐佢哋叫我去呢個培訓啦，咁咪2年啦，然後2017年16年受證。
So he received the invitation to become a commissioner and became a commissioner in 2017.
受證之後咧，又唔好彩又中獎啦。
So then he got another lottery, right? After he became a member, he got this.
佢又要我做呢個手術啦，或者做呢個電療啦，嗰個 prostate cancer。
Yeah, he got the prostate cancer.
就呢段時間我就好苦惱。
He was really conflicted whether or not going through the procedure or operation.
你開刀啊，還是電療咧？所以就選擇咗，因為年紀大啦，咪唔好再開刀啦。
So because he's referring to he's getting like older, like don't look at him like he looks really relatively young, but he's in his mid-70s. So he chose to have the radiation treatment, and then now the treatment is
選擇咗嗰個電療之後咧，呢個時間都有一段嘅 幾痛苦下咁嘅，因為你一早又要去電療啦，電咗之後咧，你個人有一個改變啦，你要成日上廁所，係咪？你去唔切咧，會有一個問題，好似細路仔咁樣。
So, at times he needed to overcome his feelings about like wearing diapers, right? Adult diapers to come.
咁咪都要電45次，一個月多啲啦。咁咪算畢業咗啦，咁啊 OK。45次，yeah。咁慈濟咁吸引我邊個地方咧，我都講唔出，因為睇下師傅啊，嘅感染同埋佢嘅方向，我係好贊成嘅，即係對我係佢嘅路行，我覺得係好啱，好正確。
So he follows Master Ching Yin's direction because he thinks it's right. He feels right to follow her path. So.
Yeah， 所以我會繼續前進。
He's going to continue this path with everybody here. Thank you.
Thank you.
So let's give them another round of applause. Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, his story really inspired me to also do more with my healthy body and find that energy that he finds every Friday to come here and help and keep giving. So our next sharer, our guest speaker, I would like to introduce is Rosalinda Cos. And I'm so grateful to have her here with us today because a couple of days ago she wasn't feeling so well, but then we made contact and she said yes, she can make it. And so we're so grateful to have her here. So if you guys can give her a round of applause. And then keep the mic closer to you.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Sir. Hi. Good morning. My name is Rosalinda, and I've been a member of the Titsushi program here since 2017. I never imagined that I was going to become a recipient of food pantry. I always worked, but because of some financial difficulties and health issues, I was lucky to find the Titsushi Foundation and its members. The food pantry has really become a great help in my budget, and I can see the same thing for all the people that come every week to share the goods that you guys provide. They asked me to say a few words about how I personally been impacted by this program, and I would like to express my deepest gratitude. Before I understood gratitude as being the concept of feeling, that someone gets when you're handed out something that you appreciate the intention of the giver. Oftentimes you feel like sometimes you don't deserve, what you're getting is free stuff, and that you are taking advantage of it because you're not giving anything in return. You come here every Friday and you get your bags of vegetables and things, but you feel like something is you're taking advantage of the situation. But I can tell you that the more I observe the volunteers of this foundation, how the way they interact with people, everybody that comes here doesn't feel intimidated, doesn't feel like you're being discriminated because of your race, of your ethnicity, or your language, or the way you look, the color of your skin, or your religion. You are not forced into anything. You just come here and you feel that gratitude. They always here with a welcoming attitude. They always have the smiles on their faces. And you see the story of Stephen. I've learned so much about him, and I admire the way he's there every week for everybody that comes to the pantry. In that situation, I can always tell you that I have learned a lesson through the She Foundation. Instead of like just coming and giving, you are teaching me ways of being better. As a result of your respect and your love, I have changed myself. I can see now that gift, I become a better person just by observing and just looking at the way you treat other people. Always, with not thinking that you are giving us something for free or anything. Always like giving it from the heart, always making you feel like you are welcome and making you feel like you can come. I feel personally that I am part of the Titsushi family through all these weeks and all these 2 years that I've been coming here. Not just a member that comes every week, but part of your situations. I just by knowing each of the members, briefly, the times that I come and the little interaction and the way they treat and the attitude that they have, I have become a better person myself. The food pantry, when we come to the food pantry, it's a very diverse group. And even with that, we have the introduction, we have a little prayer session where we all join together and we pray for joy and peace in the world and in our lives, and to and I think that's also an inspiration for everybody, not just to come and grab the food, but it makes you think, being mindful of the place that you are and what you're doing. They also have here what they call the happy class. The volunteers have a very, very nice program they have put together. A lot of effort. We come once a month. We do a lot of activities. It's not a lot of time. It's only like 2.5. We always extend over the time limit because it's 2 hours, but we always stay 3 hours because it's very nice. So we have, they teach us about the Titsushi philosophy. We learn about all the disaster recovery efforts that you have in the world. They teach us about some relaxation techniques. We do some light exercise. We do some light, vegetarian cooking. And then at the end, we finish the session with a light lunch that we all share. And that's where we all sit, and we spend normally more time than what we are allotted to, but they are very graciously stay with us. Just to finish, I like to extend my deepest gratitude from the people that attend the pantry every week, to all of you that give your valuable time every week. Not, you see the same faces every single week. They come here, and I know the job that is involved in this. You have to prepare the weekly food distribution. You have to bag the foods. You have to separate the goods. Everything that happens behind doors, in the kitchen, preparing the bags, pouring them in the carts, bringing them out, opening and closing the facilities, dealing with all the administrative tasks that is probably behind all this, all the food bank arrangements and all the distribution of all the fresh vegetables. These volunteers are here every single week, and I think that is amazing. And I have to thank each one of you and to the Titsushi family also for making this happening. I would like to close this little spiel with a quote from Master Cheng Yang. Be grateful always for everything and everyone at every moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosalinda, and welcome to our Tsuji family. Okay, so through their story, we're just gonna do a little recap and discussion. I hope our volunteer and our recipient and our whole food pantry dynamic discussion story can give you a chance to discuss within your groups. Who was the giver in these stories? And who was the receiver? And what are the gifts that are being exchanged? So if you guys can take a few moments to talk within your group and share, and some teams have our special guest speaker, but other teams, if you guys can brainstorm in your groups, let's list down who you think are the givers, the receivers, and the gifts being exchanged.
Yeah, I think so. That looks right. That looks right. Yeah, I think so. And then I'll ask someone to volunteer. Is this muted? So we're not doing the house. Okay, time is about up. Right now, we have some volunteers. Our curriculum team is putting tea on your table. Please don't drink it yet. We'll be using that later. But can anyone would anybody like to volunteer what they have shared? Just like who is the giver, who is the receiver, and what is the gift? Anybody want to say it? Just one person. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Please, 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 please.
Hi, I'm Grant, and I'm from the greater Washington, D.C. region. So in this case, the giver and the receiver is on both sides because in this case, they're giving the gift of love. And so both just both the giver and receiver, there's no real distinction between them because they're both doing the same thing.
Thank you, Grant. So, that is very insightful. So yeah, to understand the relationship between the giver, the receiver, and the gift, the three spheres of emptiness is pretty much this concept. It's pretty much the underlying framework of gratitude. So thank you for saying that. It was pretty spot on. Like, it is a relationship. It's interconnected. So like, if there's no recipients, who is the giver and is there still a gift? So for example, if there's a doctor with no patients, who are they treating? If a teacher has no students, who are they passing along knowledge to? So who is the giver, who is the receiver, and what is the gift in this scenario?
Right, Nicole. So next slide. Can you do the next slide? Okay. So when we volunteer with Tsuji, whether at the food pantry or when we go international relief or any disaster relief, when we go to these events, we call it the household of gratitude. Why do we call it the household of gratitude? Because every time we enter these opportunities and we instill this gratitude that we have this opportunity to serve and to receive. That we're both the giver, but we're also receiving this joy, this knowledge, this experience. And sometimes things are not that easy, right? Sometimes things we come across are frustrating or not as what we expected. But if we view it with this inner gratitude and we perceive every situation and every opportunity for us to practice this as a chance for us to continually enrich our lives, to continually learn, then we realize that this whole circle, this interrelationship with Mother Earth, with each other, with our families, with our friends, with our coworkers, it just starts to fill your heart with this sense of gratitude and that you can overcome anything that's in your path.
So now that you know a little bit about how Tsuji practices gratitude, I'd just like to ask one question you guys can discuss in your groups. How can practicing gratitude help us in our daily lives? And one volunteer for this too, please. So you guys have a couple minutes, let's say 3 minutes, to discuss this.
No.
Okay, sorry, but time's up. Would anybody like to volunteer? Just one way. Anybody? I see Roger.
Very quick. So my name is Roger. I'm from Group 2. So my perspective was that gratitude can help you reduce your stress, make yourself more approachable to others. Because having gratitude, then you won't be putting yourself in a constant stress and worry about things that cannot be changed. And instead, you change your perspective. Be grateful for the things that you met, people that you encountered, and those things are the things that nurture your character. You're able to develop yourself, keep pushing yourself, and become a better person. And you're able to focus your mindset to other stuff and make your daily life more productive and efficient. And other people that seeing you will want to also interact with you to learn from you, and you'll be a person that's approachable, and you can connect with other people, inspiring other people. Something like that. Thank you.
That's great, Roger. Thank you so much for sharing. So yeah, how can we practice this awareness?
How can we practice this awareness, Nicole? So in our next portion of our class, we have tea set in the middle of the table, and I know that some of you already started enjoying it, but we're actually using it in a meditation. So if you did drink your tea already, it's okay. If you could just raise your hand so my curriculum team can refill your cup. I do want to make a little, I just want to clarify. We usually cannot drink in this classroom, but because of this class, they allowed me to have this tea experience with everyone. So if you just claim your cups by you, we're going to pour some more tea in here so that we can begin our meditation session. So again, of course, I was up here last night. We practiced mindfulness and being present and being grounded and being here. And I think when we are very present in our interactions and when we're very present with the things around us, that is a way for us to continually practice gratitude. Every object you hold comes from somewhere, has a story. Every person you meet has a story. And every place you visit has a story. And when you find out and you're really present and concentrating and focusing right on that object, you realize that these objects connect you back to people. It connects you back to your memories. It connects you back to Earth, the world. And we want to keep emphasizing that interpersonal connectedness that we are. A lot of times we think, oh, this is just us. But then when you notice everything from a piece of paper, where does it come from? Right? How did this paper get here? You have workers that are out there cutting down trees, which we don't like, right? But they're working hard to get this piece of paper to where you can write and draw on it. And knowing this knowledge of trying to conserve and protect the earth, how will you use this paper now, right? We can always learn from Master Jen Yan, where she takes one piece of paper and she writes in different colors and reuses that paper because of that gratitude and that appreciation of where we're getting these items, these things, and knowing that all the people that had to make this possible. So I believe all the tea's been refilled. The tea that you have in front of you is a very special tea. It's from our Jingsi tea plantation in Taiwan, in Sanyi. It's actually an organic tea farm, so you're gonna enjoy a cup of oolong tea, which is a green tea that's organically made and shipped all the way here from Taiwan. So before we start, I would like everyone to sit comfortably in their chairs if they can, keeping the tea close by you. If you know me, you know I like to be grounded and centered before we start anything. That's part of our mindfulness practice. So you could pass out the teacups to put it next to you, but we're not going to drink it just yet. And then if you can settle down into your seats, plant your foot into the ground, really ground yourself, sitting comfortably in your chair. You can keep your hands on your side or on your lap or wherever it feels the most comfortable. We're going to take, of course, a couple of cleansing and centering breaths. So I would like you guys to take an inhale through your nose. Let that air travel all the way down your body. And then exhale that air right back out of your nose. So we're going to take a couple more of those breaths. We're going to inhale through your nose. And then exhale through your nose. And every breath you take, I want to make sure that you are letting the air travel all the way down through your body, past your chest to your belly, and then you're releasing that air back up, letting the oxygen nourish your body, really enjoying this moment and concentrating on that breath. Inhaling in and exhaling out. Lightly close your eyes and focus on the breath. With every inhalation, bring in positivity, bring in energy, bring in light. And with every exhale, letting go of everything that does not serve you. Negative thoughts, worries, stress, and really guide yourself back into this present moment. I'd like you to gently open your eyes and take a look at your tea. Notice its color. Notice its clarity. Notice its intensity. You can bring it up closer to your nose where you can take a smell and let the fragrance of the tea guide you. Put the tea back down, closing your eyes. With the fragrance of the tea still on your mind, I want to take you back. Come with me all the way to Taiwan, to Sanyi, to the fields of tea leaves. In front of you, you see rows and rows of tea leaves. Behind you are the mountains. Above you, fluffy clouds floating by. You feel a gentle breeze touch upon your skin. When you turn your head up, you face the warm sun shining down on you. In the background, you hear birds chirping. Nearby, you might hear a rustle through the bushes. This is the natural environment where everything is held in balance. The green tea leaves not only nourish us, but also the animals around it, from the worm to the bird to the mouse. That's the cycle of life. That's living in harmony with nature, living in harmony with your surroundings. And as you see the leaves, at just the right moment, our volunteers would come through, gather these leaves by hand, one by one, picking them off the branches, carrying them, and taking them to be dried and packaged and then sent all around the world. And then arriving here at Tzu Chi office today, as our brothers and sisters were so busy in the background, preparing the tea at just the right temperature, pouring it with love and care, and bringing it out for everyone to enjoy. So I'd like you to open your eyes and pick up your teacup. And I'd like you to bring the teacup up, and with that first sip, sending that tea into your body to enrich and nourish yourselves. Taking a pause, and then with the second sip, I hope the refreshing taste of tea awakens your heart. And with that last sip, setting a positive intention to bring this back with you wherever you are, to your family, to your friends, to your community. You can practice this sense of gratitude anywhere you're at, with any object in front of you, to bring this sense of joy and peace back. Thank you, my givers today, for letting me have this opportunity to share this moment with you. And that concludes our gratitude class. Gang En, thank you.